Good afternoon. You're now watching ASEAN Business Report. It's Tuesday, the 10th of April, and you're with us. I'm Weena Jongprasit.
And also with you, I am Nirasha Malisak. We start with the royal cremations as His Majesty the King Bhumibol Adulyadej assigned His Royal Highness Crown Prince Washiralongkorn and Her Royal Highness Princess Maha Chakri Sirinthorn to represent him in bringing the royal urn containing the ashes of the late Her Royal Highness Princess Pecharat Rajasuda to a royal chariot, which will bring it to the Grand Palace. Royal cremation rites began yesterday for Princess Pecharat Rajasuda, the only daughter of King Rama VI and cousins to the reigning King Rama IX, Bhumibol Adulyadej. The princess died on July 27 last year. Yesterday was declared as a public holiday to mark the royal cremation rites. The day-long ceremony began with the royal urn containing the princess' remains being carried on a palanquin by 60 soldiers in traditional Thai dress from the Grand Palace in Bangkok to a 13-ton glide royal chariot. The chariot dated back from the time of King Rama I, who was the first Chakri dynasty king who moved the capital to Bangkok in 1782. The chariot was pulled by 216 men. The procession ended in Sanam Luang, the royal cremation ground, where a funeral pyre was constructed. King Bhumibol Adulyadej, the world's longest reigning monarch, left Siri Raj Hospital to preside over the ceremony. Sitting on a wheelchair, he was wearing the customary white royal uniform and a black armband for the memorial rites of Princess Pecharat Rajasuda. Together with his wife, Queen Sirikit, he lit candles and incense at a specially constructed royal crematorium at the Sanam Luang ceremonial ground in Bangkok's historic district, attended by saffron-robed monks and top officials, including Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. Princess Pecharat was the only daughter of King Washirawut, who reigned from 1910 to 1925. The princess was educated in Britain and returned to Thailand in 1959 when her cousin Bhumibol was on the throne.
The United States is putting pressure on Iran by having the two aircraft carrier close to the Gulf ahead of the resumption of nuclear talks with Tehran this week. Lieutenant Commander John Fage, a Navy spokesman, yesterday said there are currently two carrier strike groups in the U.S. Fifth Fleet area of operations. The USS Abraham Lincoln is currently in the North Arabian Sea, not in the Gulf itself, and the USS Enterprise is transiting the Gulf of Aden. The Enterprise has in effect replaced the USS Carl Vinson, which has left the zone to conduct maneuvers in the Bay of Bengal before later returning to the west coast of the United States. The U.S. naval presence in the Gulf is described as routine by the Pentagon, but tensions arise in recent months following Iran's threat to close the Strait of Hormuz, which is a key global oil choke point in the region. In January, Pentagon Chief Leon Panetta said the United States was fully prepared for any confrontation with Iran over the Strait of Hormuz, but said he hoped the dispute would be resolved peacefully. Tehran threatened last December to close the strait, where 1/5 of the world's traded oil passes through, in the event of a military strike or severe threatening of international sanctions over its disputed nuclear program. Yesterday, Iran confirmed that nuclear talks this week with world powers would take place in Istanbul, dropping public reservations over that city as the venue following a sharply worded row with Turkey. Iran last held talks with so-called P5+1 powers, permanent UN Security Council members Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States, plus Germany, took place in January 2011, but with no results.
Still stay in Thailand, some Thai businesses and industries have expressed concern over the looming domestic labor shortage following Myanmar's decisions to open up its economy. Construction, fishery, and food industry are among those expected to be hardest hit by the ongoing development in Myanmar, which held its first by-election in years on April 1st as the first major step to join the rest of the world. The US and European Union have said they will lift Western sanctions on Myanmar once the country returns to democratic governance. Visit Limprana, president of the Food Processing Industry Club Federation of Thailand, said there is a shortage of 20,000 to 30,000 workers in this sector, according to a news report. The shortage exists even though hundreds of thousands of Myanmar workers are currently working in Thailand, while these migrant workers will not immediately return to their home country. Thailand will likely face the shortage of workers in the next few years as Myanmar draws more foreign investment into its country and needs a large workforce. At the least, there will be less migrant workers from Myanmar wanting to work in Thailand in the near future, resulting in a domestic shortage. Besides Myanmar, other new sources of migrant workers such as Bangladesh will have to be tackled as Thailand's birth rate is relatively low at 0.5%, so there will not be enough new workers in coming years.
Kittirat Naranong, Deputy Premier and Finance Minister, has urged Thailand state enterprises and the private sector to invest more in ASEAN and other countries to rebalance the economy. Labor-intensive industries should be the top priority to invest in neighboring countries where wages are lower, as Thailand's minimum wages are now 300 baht per day, up 40% from the previous level. In addition to Board of Investment's existing promotional privileges, he said the government will also review machinery import duties to help the private sector invest more in machinery to boost their productivity. State-owned firms and enterprises which have a strong business potential should also invest more in neighboring countries. According to Kittirat, Thailand has recorded trade, current account, and balance of payment surpluses over the past 4 to 5 years, so there is now excess liquidity in the financial system. As a result, there should be more overseas investment to ease the pressures on the strengthening of Thai currencies, as exchange rates depend on import-exports, overseas investments, and remittances. In the long run, he said there must be more overseas investment by Thai enterprises to rebalance the economy and boost the country's competitiveness while bringing more profits from overseas operations.
And right now on the line with us, we have Kun Kasem Planratanamala, who is the head of research of CIMB Securities Thailand. สวัสดีค่ะคุณเกษม
สวัสดีครับ
ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะคุณเกษมค่ะ Following to the U.S. aircraft carrier stationed near the Gulf close to Iran, so do you think what are the consequences of domestic and global investments from this?
Actually, I think the current decline in the stock market in Thailand and also in other markets probably don't have much to do with the sort of this move by the U.S. In fact, oil prices came off a bit on the hope that there will be a talk between the Western country with Iran on this upcoming Saturday. So they hope that that may lead to a peaceful conclusion. So oil price actually stay calm.
What about the latest development for the 300 baht minimum wage, which got implemented in April 1st? How does that affect the Thai stock market?
Okay, there are positive and negatives, but in general, I think positive outweigh the negative ones. Actually, this will benefit our consumer sector as people will have more money in their pockets to spend.
Yes.
However, the small operators like those SME, we have to shoulder higher wages. However, I think that will also force them to move up the value-added chain, which would be necessary as other neighboring countries like Myanmar is opening up as well. So I think they have to move up or relocate their plants to neighboring country.
Right. So another factor, how would the disagreement on the constitutional amendment affect the Thai stock market?
I think at this point, the market may not factor that much into consideration yet. I think as long as the conflict is resolved within the parliament, I don't think that there will be significant impact on the market. Yeah.
Right. Kun Kasem, can you give us a picture of the movement of the Thai stocks last week and also give us a forecast of how it will be like next week?
Okay. Actually, the market came off by about 1% last week. Luckily, we were closed on last Friday.
Yes.
So the market didn't, come off that much last week. However, since overseas market also continued to decline, from last Friday and also yesterday, so that caused our market to actually decline more sharply than other regional market today.
So what would be your suggestions for investors who plan to invest in Thailand?
Actually, since investors are, not seeing any new sort of catalyst for the stock market in the near term, as the hope for the QE3 and more stimulus packages from other leading countries, sort of subsided. So there may be a profit-taking mode setting in.
Right.
So in the near term, the market may slide further. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Kun Kasem,
Thank
for
you very much.
joining our
Thank you.
program today.
Have a